Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Daniel Hood Roofing. Great roofs, great prices, great reviews from your neighbors all across East Tennessee. Check out the website, danielhoodroofing.com, and you can read all the testimonials for yourself. Take advantage of their basketball deal going on right now before the NBA season ends and the NBA clock is ticking. Daniel Hood Roofing. All right, take a look here. And the ACC had their spring meeting this week. The SECs are coming up in a week. But the big story was the news that 7 schools, half the league, have had conversations with one another about examining the Grant of Rights Agreement. Now, that's the contract that locks them all together until 2036. The 7 on the left there want more money. Well, they all want more money, but those 7 are putting their money where their mouth is. They're taking a look at this grant of rights thing. The ACC just isn't going to have the money that these guys need, the kind of money that the Big Ten and the SEC will. So they're taking a look at that agreement. The ACC commissioner, laughably this week, said that it's a good thing, and he encourages schools to look at it, which is like a man saying, no, I want my wife to look at a divorce attorney and see what's out there. That's just nonsense. But they all got together and sang Kumbaya. And everybody's saying it's fine now, but it is a question. So you look at those 7 schools there, and thanks to a friend of the program for sending me that nice artwork with the banners. I didn't have to build that. That's good looking. It's professional. I won't say his name, but thanks to the professional friend of the program for sending that in. Where do you think those schools would be looking to go? The Big Ten or the SEC? Clemson, Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, Virginia Tech. And here's the reason I ask. When you look at the SEC, Texas A&M is a fit, right? We all agree Texas A&M, that's a crazy fan base, they fit. Big Ten, Missouri, when they came in, they wanted a Big Ten bid first. It didn't come, so they took the SEC. Have they been a good cultural fit, Missouri? I would argue no. So that's why I'm asking this, because if you look here, if we see some here and you go, well, I don't know if they'd want Big Ten in the academics or they want the SEC, that would concern me about how those teams would fit. And I think there are some teams on here who would have to weigh. Whereas I think there are some that you would just immediately go, oh, we're wanting the SEC. So, Josh, where do you think these teams are wanting to go? Clemson, Florida State. Who do you think is SEC and SEC only on that list, if there are any?
You mind if I check my options to see if there's another show I can hop on real quick?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Keep your options open.
Sure, exactly.
I think Florida State would make sense with the SEC. Clemson, they're in a lot of SEC recruiting battles. They're becoming SEC-ier. They play South Carolina
and
every year and have a great rivalry there.
I don't see the Big Ten going after either of those schools either,
right, yeah.
academically.
Yeah, you look at the fit elsewhere, and I don't see that there. I have thought Miami with the SEC, but there are different opinions there. So I look at Virginia and the North Carolina schools and think Big Ten more quickly than I think SEC. Virginia Tech, I'm kind of split. I would think SEC first, but I could see the Big Ten idea.
I don't think the Big Ten loves that AAU stuff. They like the amalgamation of the Association of American Universities. It's not AAU like you're thinking the recruiting thing. It's the AAU. It's a group of universities. They're all major research institutions, and the Big Ten splits that money, and they make more money from that than they do football. So that's why it's a big thing for them. The SEC not so much. Bob. And we'll bring it back here. Let's go by just what Josh said, because I happen to agree. Clemson and Florida State, I don't think the Big Ten would be interested in them. I think they'd be interested in the SEC first and foremost.
Correct. I'm going to agree with that.
Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And I'm going to throw Virginia Tech in there too.
Okay.
I think Virginia Tech would like to be an SEC school.
Virginia Tech, Florida State, Clemson are the clear SEC. Is there anybody else that's clearly SEC and wouldn't sit there and go, well, I don't know, the Big Ten
I think Miami
would prefer the SEC?
I do.
Okay.
And a lot of it has to do with location, but I do think that.
I don't think
geography.
I don't think they're a cultural fit for the SEC either. You don't have one of those big cities, but okay. Yeah.
Well, and we've talked about it before on the show, stadium fan base, and I don't know that all those other schools outside of Clemson and Florida State and Virginia Tech check all those boxes. I think North Carolina would bring a lot to the table, but they don't have the big stadium. Now maybe they could change that with the new money coming in, and you'd have that. But I think a wild card would be, they may not look for it, but I wonder if the Big 12 would look to the Southeast. I think they've had interest in Florida State. Now, there wouldn't be any of those schools' first choice, but kind of like you mentioned with Missouri, would any of those entertain that if they couldn't get into one of the big dogs?
Let's put that graphic back up. I think the ones that would be looking at the Big 12 would be the one if we can get that graphic, I don't know, we maybe already passed it. The ones on the other side. You
Yeah.
know, Boston College, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Pitt, Syracuse. Wait, I could see the Big 12 grabbing them after the Big. I think the Big 10, and the SEC are going to get their pick of who they want.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And if they want anybody, I think they would. The Big Ten has made no bones about the fact. One of their presidents came out off the record last week and said, it makes more sense for us to expand east than it does to go back to the Pacific Northwest, which has to be good news for USC and UCLA.
Yeah.
Oh, good, you're getting more further away from us. It was a great move by them. But
Yeah, USC Miami could be a great annual rival. in the Big Ten.
yeah, I just think North Carolina, Virginia makes sense with the Big Ten because of that academic hoity-toity stuff. Am I wrong to think that should I be comparing Missouri? Is that wrong for me to paint everybody with the Missouri brush? Anybody who would look at the Big Ten?
No, I think the Missouri brush is a good brush to paint with.
That's a fair
And I
comparison.
think it leads into the next segment.
I think Missouri would agree with you. Yeah, still 10 years later, after joining the SEC.
If they could get to the Big Ten now, I think they'd still prefer to do it.
would strongly entertain it.
I think NC State may be the school that's out of luck on that list.
Could very well be, on the
On
left
the seven,
side.
yeah, the seven that are trying to
I
get
looked
out.
at the top 5 and thought those would be more likely SEC, those top 5 to me. I wouldn't
Do you not
convince
think? Okay. Do you not think North Carolina and Virginia would look at? Well, Virginia Tech not in there. You think North Carolina would not look at the Big Ten if the SEC came calling? Do you think they'd prefer SEC?
I do.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, and the question is can this posturing they're taking, can they get out of that deal, that grant of rights deal?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. And then the question becomes, do you add more? But this stuff's going to go on and on. As a matter of fact, that's our next question: is should the SEC just stick where it is? I mean, if you look at it, and you said you could trade some of these ACC teams for Texas and Oklahoma and Missouri, you do it. I think most SEC fans would say, I'd rather go Virginia Tech, Clemson than Oklahoma. But now that they're in, if the option is you can't boot anybody, if the option is, well, we're just going to have to go to 20 and get these, is that a better deal or is that just money? So we're going to take money out of it. That's our next segment. We'll discuss when we come back, should the SEC just stick to 16, or if these teams break loose, should they go and get them? We'll discuss all that.